Getting a personality. It sounds like a monumental task, like trying to sneak into a top-secret facility guarded by someone who operates on a completely different sensory level. But what if the process was actually far more straightforward than we've been led to believe? Think back to childhood for a moment. Your entire identity could be summed up by a single, powerful combination. You were the kid who loved Harry Potter, could recite endless frog facts, and was the undisputed champion of Connect 4. You were instantly memorable, defined by a handful of clear and engaging traits that everyone immediately understood. An adult could meet you, and within 40 seconds they knew you as the Harry Potter Connect 4 Frog Kid. Now fast forward to the present. An adult asks what you're interested in, and your mind goes blank. After the 100th time this happens, a conclusion starts to form. It begins to feel like you just don't have a personality. This feeling of being a conversational blank slate is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of what personality actually is and how social memory works. The most common piece of advice you'll encounter online is to simply be yourself unapologetically. This is typically the advice given by people for whom being themselves is already interesting. For those who are naturally more reserved or who struggle with finding engaging conversation points, this advice is entirely unactionable. It feels less like guidance and more like a platitude, often referred to as extrovert propaganda, a strategy that works only if you already possess the social wizardry to turn mundane interests into captivating stories. So when the be yourself advice fails, you turn to generic suggestions, personality quizzes, reading lists, or joining a common class like pottery. While these activities are fine, they rarely create the specific, memorable identity you are seeking. They produce generalists, not specialists, and generalists are easily forgotten. To solve this, we must first define the term. Personality in a social context is not the complex sum of your entire psychological profile. It is the short list of standout characteristics that immediately come to mind when someone thinks of you. It is a cognitive shortcut. Consider the memorable figures around you. That one high school classmate who pushed you over on the playground? They were defined by a few traits: mean, sore loser, obsessed with wrestling. The individual who brought exotic reptiles to school assemblies? Cool, dresses like a wilderness expert. The snake guy. Public figures are the same. Elon Musk is perceived as rich, eccentric, and visionary. Adele is British, powerful singer, probably friendly. You will notice that the more clear, unique, and memorable traits you can associate with someone, the more pronounced and interesting their personality appears. This definition reveals the flaw in the generalist approach. No matter how many bestsellers you read, how many countries you visit, or how many generic classes you take, these common experiences by themselves fail to manufacture a unique persona. They blend into the background noise of modern life. What you are truly seeking is to be perceived as interesting, to have engaging topics of conversation readily available, and, crucially, to be remembered by others. This requires a structured approach to building social identity. The solution is known as the Spike method. This is not a self-help gimmick, it is a practical strategy famously utilized in the competitive world of college admissions. Ivy League schools use this concept to identify applicants who possess a profound, focused passion, a spike, that makes them stand out from a sea of otherwise perfect grades and test scores. The core idea is simple: develop a single, deep area of expertise or passion that makes you distinctive. The power of the spike lies in its depth, not its breadth. It counters the generalist trap. Instead of knowing a little about 100 things, you know a substantial amount about one specific, perhaps unexpected thing. Let's use a deliberate, mundane example to illustrate the mechanics. Cleaning. Yes, the act of cleaning itself. Now imagine you move beyond the routine chore. You dedicate time every day to learning advanced techniques, researching the chemistry of different cleaning agents, watching videos on professional sanitation, and perhaps even invest in commercial equipment like a pressure washer. Literally, in less than a month of focused effort, you could cultivate a knowledge base and practical skill level that far exceeds 99% of the population. This transforms you from someone who cleans into the cleaning expert. Now, observe how this expertise translates into social interaction. When the inevitable conversation starter occurs, "So, what do you do for fun?" your response is no longer a generic shrug. It becomes, "I'm actually really into cleaning methodologies. I've discovered some fascinating efficiencies most people aren't aware of." The immediate effect is curiosity. The other person is forced to ask a follow-up question because the response is unexpected and specific. This is the mechanism that bypasses small talk. Consider the role-play scenario. "So what do you do for fun?" "I've developed a real expertise in cleaning methodologies. I've learned so many cool things the average person doesn't know." "Oh, like what?" "You want to know the truth about robot vacuums?" Most people buy them for the wrong reasons. Or, if someone mentions a domestic problem, "My driveway is looking terrible. I can bring my pressure washer over this weekend." We could literally shoot the gunk off your driveway. It's surprisingly satisfying. "Wow, that sounds pretty cool, actually. What are you doing this weekend?" "I don't know. I'm probably going to optimize my closet space using the world's fastest folding method." You'd be surprised how much time it saves. That exists? I need to learn that. The spike, no matter how mundane, provides a unique offering and a memorable story. It is the conversational catalyst. You might be thinking that cleaning or any niche subject is inherently uninteresting, but the power of the method lies not in the subject itself, but in the depth and passion it represents. People are not interested in the topic. They are interested in expertise. This expertise serves as your conversational foothold. It is the unique element that allows you to bypass generic small talk and immediately capture interest. Crucially, the spike does not define your entire existence. You don't have to talk about cleaning all the time. The spike simply gets your foot in the door. Once the initial connection is established, once the person has mentally filed you as the expert in X, the conversation can flow naturally to other more general topics such as current events or mutual interests. The spike gives people something concrete to remember and talk about when they introduce you to others. The process of building and deploying a spike can be broken down into 4 simple, actionable steps. Step 1. Identify a niche interest. This must be something that genuinely captures your curiosity. Do not pick a spike based on perceived social status or coolness. The subject can be anything: competitive speed knitting, the history of forgotten board games, the logistics of 18th century naval warfare, or indeed advanced cleaning. The key is genuine, sustainable interest. Step 2. Gain demonstrable expertise. Dedicate focused, consistent time to learning and practicing until you know significantly more about this niche than most people you meet. This doesn't mean earning a PhD. It means knowing enough to confidently correct the average person's assumptions or explain the subject's intricacies. Step 3. Integrate and test the spike. Use this new expertise as your primary point of differentiation when meeting new people. Do not hide it. Present it confidently and observe the reaction. Step 4. Practice relatable communication. This is the most critical and often overlooked step, which we will detail further. The spike is useless if you cannot translate it effectively. The success of this methodology is evident in the realm of college admissions. Admissions officers are actively paid to identify applicants who possess this focused depth. They recognize that an applicant who excels at competitive knitting or who wrote their essay on the therapeutic applications of Tetris demonstrates a level of commitment and passion that far surpasses the student who simply checked off 7 standard extracurricular boxes. The spike is memorable precisely because it sticks out from the flat surface of general achievement. However, the effectiveness of the spike method hinges entirely on how you communicate your expertise. You have complete freedom in selecting your area of focus, but you must talk about it in a way that the average person can understand and engage with. Imagine your spike is expertise in the deep lore and mechanics of the video game Minecraft. This is a perfectly valid choice. But if you immediately launch into a technical explanation of how you beat the game without ever touching the ground, you have built a communication wall. While an impressive feat, the majority of people do not know how Minecraft works, what the ultimate goal of the game is, or why not touching the ground presents a challenge. The effective communication approach requires a translation layer. You must assume your audience knows nothing and guide them across the bridge. The translation framework consists of 3 parts: context, achievement, and universal takeaway. First, provide context. Explain the basics of your niche in simple terms. For Minecraft, this means clarifying that it is a creative building and exploration game. Second, state the achievement. Share your unique accomplishment within that framework. You can then say you found a way to complete the entire game without ever touching the ground, a logistical puzzle. Third, provide the universal takeaway. Connect the niche achievement to a broader, relatable human experience. For example, it taught me how to solve complex logistical problems under extreme constraints, which is actually really useful for organizing my work projects. People are generally willing to listen to and engage with any topic, no matter how obscure, as long as it is framed in accessible, relatable terms. The second you start using big words, internal jargon, or highly complex niche terminology to sound smart, you inadvertently cause them to stop listening. You are signaling that they are outside the club, and they will naturally disengage. Consider the difference between 2 explanations of a volcano. A skilled science communicator like Bill Nye makes the subject dynamic and immediately understandable for a broad audience by using analogies and simple language. In contrast, a volcanologist using highly specialized terminology about magma composition and fault line mechanics might make the subject feel alienating. The goal is to share your knowledge, not to overwhelm with terminology. The depth of your spike should be communicated through clarity, not complexity. A common objection to the spike method is the fear of being pigeonholed, the worry that if you become the cleaning expert, people will only ever talk to you about cleaning. This misunderstanding ignores the social psychology at play. The spike is a tool for initial impression formation. Once the initial impression is formed, it creates a sense of trust and competence. If you are competent in one area, the assumption is that you are competent in others. Think of it this way. The cleaning spike allows you to skip the line of generic small talk and move straight to an interesting interaction. After that initial conversation, you are free to discuss movies, politics, or weekend plans. You are now remembered as the interesting person who knows about cleaning, not just some guy. Another objection is that one might not have the time to develop such deep expertise. However, the spike method emphasizes focused effort over massive time investment. As demonstrated by the cleaning example, consistent, deliberate learning for even a month can put you ahead of 99% of the population in a specific niche. It is about prioritizing depth in one area rather than spreading minimal effort across many. Furthermore, if you struggle to find a single interest, consider combining 2 seemingly disparate subjects. This is often the fastest way to create a unique spike. Examples include the economics of competitive video gaming, the history of typography in political campaigns, or the philosophy of minimalist home organization. When you combine 2 fields, you automatically become an expert in the overlap, which is a unique category of one. To summarize, developing a distinct personality is not about undergoing a fundamental change in your character or forcing yourself to become an extrovert. It is a practical, project-based framework centered on cultivating a unique, deep area of expertise, the spike, and mastering the skill of communicating that expertise accessibly. This method provides a tangible framework for those who feel undefined to construct a memorable social identity, ensuring that when people think of you, they have a clear, interesting, and positive characteristic immediately come to mind. The path forward is clear. You can continue to feel like a conversational blank slate, relying on generic advice that doesn't work, or you can begin the process of building and deploying your spike today. The choice to become memorable is entirely yours. If you found this breakdown of social psychology and identity construction useful, subscribing to the channel supports the creation of more content like this.